Okay. Good evening, everybody, and thank you, Dr. Omid, for all your efforts. Today, it will be a little bit different from the previous times because we would like you today that you follow up with Dr. Omid step by step. He will go through the dosrznrc platform, and please, we need you to follow up exactly what he's asking you to do. If you did not succeed in any step, please just raise up your hand. There is raise up hand down near the participant in the Zoom player. So at least we could help you and to catch up with the other people. And I leave the floor for Dr. Omid.
Okay, good evening, everyone. So we're back after a week. I've given you an assignment on the classroom. Many actually, no picture on Zoom, I can only hear voice, yeah. So many actually replied and I gave them feedback, but I feel some have been struggling with actually just trying to solve or, these simple questions in the assignment. So I thought today probably it's a good idea to go through it again, the dosrznrc, again, geometry, listen to your questions, try to solve these problems. And if we have time, I will move forward to try to introduce the dosxyz geometry, but this we'll see later. So I have prepared a small presentation. Okay, so let's see if we can get it back. Okay. Okay. Okay, can you see now the presentation, the RZ geometry?
Yes, it's there. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let's move the slides. Okay, so the RZ geometry is best used for obtaining data on beam central axis. It's probably not the geometry that most of us are interested in. For example, the voxel geometry, the dosxyz, is probably more interesting for us. But sometimes you want to actually do calculations on just beam central axis. You could do that with dosxyz. In particular, the dose, you can calculate those along central axis with dosxyz. But it happens that when you use an RZ geometry, the dosrz is actually faster in calculating the central axis depth dose, for example. But there are other codes that are of interest when it comes to, for example, chamber correction factors, stopping power ratios, correction factors, and fluences. Those are particular for those interested in chambers and correction factors for chambers and so on. So with the dosrz, there are 4 user codes, the dosrz, which we are going to use actually. I believe it's the one that most of us are interested in. But there is a fluence or flu-RZ NRC that calculates the fluence. SPR-RZ is for calculating stopping power ratios, and CAV-RZ is for calculating some correction factors for cavities and so on. Personally, I've used the SPR-RZ, I've used the dosrz, but the flu-RZ, I haven't used it, and I haven't used the CAV-RZ. Okay, so the RZ geometry assumes your phantom is cylindrically symmetric, okay? And that's why the calculation is actually fast. So we have so we need to only record the particle Z and R positions, okay? That is enough actually when you have, and that's why the calculation is usually fast. The phantom can be visualized being made of central, made of central cylinders surrounded by rings. And the phantom is then divided into regions that is defined by either slabs or by cylinders and rings. So I'm going to demonstrate this. This is, imagine you have this fan and we're looking at it from the top view. So from the top view, the phantom looks like a cylinder. And then we can divide this cylinder into a central cylinder and surrounding rings like this. So in this case, we have in the center, this is a cylinder, and then we have it surrounded by a ring. And then we have a third ring, a fourth ring. We can have as many rings. I think the limit is 61 or something like that. To define the dimensions of these rings, you only have one option with dosrz, is you need to define the boundaries. So in this case, we need to enter what is R1, R2, R3, and R4. In our assignment, we are interested in calculating a central axis depth dose. So we would select R1 to be something small, for example, half a cm, the radius. So the overall diameter of this central axis is 1 cm. You could select something smaller, that's fine. And then we wanted another outer ring that is at 15 centimeters, just so that it provides the scattering and so on. We were not interested in actually recording anything in, let's say, ring number 3 or 2 and so on. So in that particular assignment, 2 rings were sufficient. One to define the central axis cylinders, and one is to define a large outer ring, just so that it provides the necessary scattering. Okay, so far so good. Okay, so now let's look at this phantom, but now from the side view. So from the side view, so the top view is something we're looking in this direction, but now we're looking from the side. So the side, this geometry is divided into layers. As shown in this figure, we have layer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers in this particular example. But we could actually have, I think, multiple of layers. I think 60, or we can actually go to 200 layers, actually. So the layers are, okay. So the layers, okay, let's get this back. Okay. So the layers, to define them, we can either use, we have 2 options. One is to use the individual, what we call individual approach, where basically we specify the layer boundaries. So we need to specify in the input file what is Z1, Z2, Z3, Z4, Z5. We need to specify Z is basically the distance from the top to here. So Z2 would be the distance from here up to here, and Z3 and so forth. The other option, which I think it's the faster option, it's the smarter option, is to actually define the layers using what's called the groups method. So basically with this method is you specify the number of slabs and their thickness. So for example, if I want to do this geometry, I would say, okay, I have the first thing, I have 1 slab with a thickness which is Z1 up to 0. And then I have another slab, so I'll put 1 also, but the thickness of this slab is going to be Z2 minus Z1. A third slab would be this thickness, Z3 and Z4, Z2, 4, and so on. The nice thing with this approach is probably when we want to look, for example, on a central axis depth dose, we want to actually divide, we have a 30 centimeter, let's say, phantom, and suppose we want to divide it just for simplicity to 30 slabs. So if I'm going to use the individual method, then I need to enter the boundary of 30 boundaries. So I need to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 until 30. But if I'm going to use the group method, I need just only 1 line. I will just say specify that I have 30 slabs and their thickness is 1 centimeter. So this should actually populate or grab or define this geometry. Okay, clear? Or is it difficult? Should I go back or? move on. If you think it's clear, just click on the yes button, from the participants. Just click.
Yeah.
Or if you have a question, raise your hand before I move on.
Okay, people are using yes. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So the RZ view, this is, since we have a symmetrical geometry, so imagine this is the full width of your phantom. Since it's cylindrical symmetric, we're going to just, draw everything from the central axis. Okay, and this is the RZ view. RZ view is we're drawing everything from the central axis. And now if we have defined the 4 rings, we entered R1, R2, R3, and 4. This should be R3, and there should be R4. And we defined our layers. Then the geometry should be divided into regions. So these regions here, those make up actually a cylinder, a central cylinder. With all of these regions, they have the same radius, but they have the different thicknesses. Okay, this region now it's a ring. It's a ring that surrounds the central cylinder, and this region is an outer ring, or these are all outer rings, and this is these are the outer rings. Okay, so clear how this view look like, the RZ view. Now here on the right, so these are the boundaries for the slabs, Z1, Z2, Z3, okay. And these are the radius. So R1, R2, R3 will be here, R4 is going to be here. Now this I put here, these are what we call them, the Z slab region. So this will be region 1 in terms of slab. So first slab, second slab, third, fourth, and fifth. And these numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these are the ring zones. Okay, so it's, if I go back, so these are the ring zones 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and if I go to here, 1, 2, 3, 4 is the planar zone. Okay, so I put them here. This is the planar zones, and these will represent the 1, 2, 3, 4 will represent the ring zones. So now we have defined our geometry. Okay, we have defined our geometry. The next step, so this is not enough. The next step is we need to define or insert the medium in each one of these zones or regions. Okay, so we need to define, okay, this is probably, let's say we say this is water, here I want air, here I want vacuum, here whatever. You can make the decide on how you want to do it. Okay, so how do we assign the media to regions in the RZ geometry? There are 2 ways. One is called by region. One is called by, I forgot the other one. I always like the other way. Yeah, okay. When we go and look at the input files, I will demonstrate that. Okay. So assigning the media. Here, for example, we're defining what's the start of a Z slab is in this direction. Okay. And the ring is in this direction. So when we assign a medium to something, start a Z slab start 1 to 5, it means Z, we go to these 5 regions. Okay, Z. So we're talking about these regions here, 1 to 5, the zones. And ring start from 1 to 4. That means all the regions from 1 to 4, like this. So in this particular assignment, what should we get? We should get all the regions assigned with whatever medium we're going to put there. So when we do this, assign the medium, all these regions are assigned to the medium that we're going to select there. It could be water, solid water, whatever medium you have. So this particular line means that assigned medium is going to be entered on the left here, 1 to 5. So fill the regions where Z slab is from 1 to 5, and the ring zones are from 1 to 4. That means all of these regions. Clear? Okay. So let me open the chat. Okay. Okay, so now I want some interaction from you. So by using this statement, okay, I don't need a feedback, but I just want you to visualize it in your head. So we're doing Z slab from 2 to 4 and bring 1 to 1. So basically in this geometry here, where do you think we're assigning the median to? Which regions? Okay. So we're assigning this medium to these regions. Z is 2 to 4, so 1, no, it's from 2 to 4. So here. And the ring is 1 to 1, so 1 and 1, stop there. So if we had this to be 2, then we're going to fill also these regions here on the side. Okay, clear? Okay. Then, how about this one? So now we're putting Z slab 3, start, and this is the stop, 3. And the ring is T 2 to 3. So I want you to visualize it in your head. Which regions we're assigning here? Okay, I'm giving you 10 seconds. So 3 and 3, 2, 3. Okay, so 3 and 3, we go along here. So we start at 3 and stop at 3. And then the ring is 2 to 3. So we're going from 2 to 3. So probably we're assigning this medium to these two regions, this one and this one. Okay? Clear? I hope everyone got it. Okay. So let me ask you this question now. We want to assign a medium to this region here. So what should I put here? So I have 4, 4, 3, 3. Okay. Does anyone disagree with that? Do you think this is correct? Okay, let's see. So now we have 4, 4, 3, 3. We're assigning something to this medium, to this region,
Yeah.
only, or is it this one?
People get it, 4, 4, 3, 3, correct.
Yeah, okay. Okay, how about this one? We want to assign now a medium to this region and to this region. A bit tricky, huh? 2, 2, and 2, 2. Okay, so this one, 2, 2, 2, 2 will take care of this one, right? and 3322. This other one is going to take care of this one, and that's true. The 3333 is this one. Yes. So Bilal Hussein got it right. Okay. I wanted to show you this because if these two regions were, let's say, on the same slabs, they're horizontally or vertically, you can actually do it with one single line. But since these two regions are not on the same, let's say, slab or on the same ring, then we need to actually issue two actually statements, okay? Population statements. So the first one, still I can use the same medium. So this could be water and this one could be water. So the first statement, I'm assigning water to the region 2222, which is going to assign the medium water to this region or this zone. And then 3333 is going to assign it to this one. Okay. One thing you have to be careful of is that the assignment of medium is always going to be sequential. So the code reads line by line. So for example, if we put another material here and we put 1514, all of this is gone because then it's going to just populate or put that medium in all of these zones. So whatever you have here, they're gone. Okay. This is a fun project. This is actually a chamber that we have used. My colleague designed, actually, Corey Zankowski. He used it actually for calibration or absolute dose output. And actually, during my PhD work, I've used this design of chamber, but with some modifications. This is a solid water. So the radius, this is actually, was a, yes, this dimension was 30 cm. So it's more like it's built from solid water slabs. So we use the 30 by 30 cm slabs. And then in the middle, we have actually made a cylinder with these slabs. And we have a solid water sort of a piston mounted on a piston. So this is a cylinder mounted on a piston. And on top, we can put a cover, solid water. And we can then, with this piston, move it up or down to vary the air in between this and this region. This is called an extrapolation chamber, and it's used for many different things. So in my work, I've actually used solid water to measure, let's say, surface doses. This particular top cap, instead of being used from solid water, because with solid water, the minimum thickness we could get without being broken is about 2 millimeters. But I needed something really very thin. So I replaced this solid water with mylar with a 50 micrometer thickness. So the design, but this is a cylindrical geometry design. And we could then model actually this chamber in using dosrznrc. So this is actually the model that I've used. So we have, everything is solid water. Okay. So now it's an RZ geometry, right? This is the air. This is the upper, it's made out of mylar with a thickness of 50 micrometers. And then on the lower part, we have graphite, because this is now, it's a chamber with 8.5 millimeters. Sorry, with the 50 micrometer also. One thing we had to do is that ring, this ring here, we needed to replace it with Delrin, another material. It's a plastic, okay, like this. So the question, okay, how do we model this chamber in using dosrznrc? So for biplanes, we can make it, we can have a long solution where we can systematically go and say, okay, let me go along this plane. first. So this plane, the Z start and Z stop is going to be 1. And the ring start is going to be between 1 and 4. So I have 4 regions. This is this is R1, R2, R3, and R4. Okay. Now the second region is this here. We can say, okay, so for slab start, stop 2, 2, but I want to go from ring 1 to ring 2 and put Mylar there. So that takes care of this part. Now to continue this, I need the Dilleren. So I'm going to put 2, 2, 3, 3, Dilleren, and then this we need solid water. So that is the fourth statement here. Again, we go move on to the next layer, air. So I'm filling this phantom, and nothing wrong by doing that, by the way. There is nothing wrong. It's just that you read a long list of statements. Okay, that's the whole thing. So this is a long solution. Okay, we can even make it longer. We can make it, okay, we define region by region. We can do that. Okay, but that will just, and nothing is wrong. The simulation is going to be correct. There is nothing wrong in that. But it's just a long, just entering this is a long solution. Sometimes you might want to do that. Sometimes you might not want to do that. But you can have actually a shorter solution. So immediately doing the first statement, solid water, 1 to 6, 1, 4. So this first statement, everything, all the regions are, we're giving them a medium of solid water. Now, the next statement, Dilleren, 2 to 5, 3, 3. So we're filling this ring here with Dilleren. Okay. Now, if I put 1 to 3 with Dilleren, okay, this is going, these will also be filled with Dilleren. I mean, then we have to replace, put solid water, and the rest we have to put, you know, other medium. So this statement is just this ring or rings. Mylar, so 2, 2, it's in the second layer, 1, 2, 1, 2. So that is Mylar. Air is this, and carbon, which is graphite, is so 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so it's this one. Okay. Now, if this statement was at the bottom here, then we get solid water everywhere. Okay, clear? Okay, so this is the RZ geometry, the concept of RZ geometry. And now I'm going to open, let's do, yeah. Okay, so let's end the presentation, exit from here. Okay, I'm going to keep this, I'm going to share it and keep it for you. So this is RZ. Okay. I'm going to post it. You will find it actually there. Edit. Let's edit it. And let's change this. Okay. So I'm going to post it. You're going to get a notification in your email. So now it's posted. It's available for you. Okay. Let's open now. Okay, can you see now my Linux? I'm going to run it.
Yeah, it's there.
Okay.
You can see.
Okay. So let's do the. Okay. So this is the regular EGSnrc input file, and what I've been discussing so far is this geometry, this thing here. Okay, so we can enter for this is the radius R1, R2. We have to specify them individual. So in this case, we have this is the template file. So we have a radius at 1, 2, 5, 10, and 100. Okay, and here they have entered actually the groups, the slabs, using the groups method, where we have 10 slabs. Each one is 1 centimeter width. And then we have 50 slabs, 2 centimeters width. So basically the 50 and 2, this is 1 meter. And so it's, I think that the depth, or, for the phantom, 110 centimeters. Okay, but you can change this. Okay, individual, if you select the individual, okay, you have to put the depths. So it's not the thicknesses, it's the depth of each boundary. So for our phantom embedded extrapolation chamber, we could actually use this, because since the slab thicknesses are different depending on the layer, we could use actually the individual to actually define our geometry. Here is where we actually, the medium, assigning the medium. So that's the by planes, they call it. The regions, I just could not figure this out immediately. I have to always go and look at I will show you this in an, the output. And then if you want to change, use it by regions, you can do that. But my recommendation would just use the planes. So in this case, what in the template file, they're assigning water okay, this is group. So assigning water, start Z and stop Z. So this is 1 to 60. Remember, we have 60 slabs here. So that's fine. And then we have 5 rings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this statement, everything in the phantom gets filled with water. And now they have replaced one particular region. So that's at 11. 11 would be 10 is 10 centimeters. So this would be actually between 10 and 12 centimeters, this region. And then the ring, so they're only replacing the inner cylinder with air. So if we look at the preview RZ, okay, and then let me just change the properties here. So let's put 40. Okay, let me also expand on this side here. Okay, so this is the geometry. Everything is filled with water. Okay, water here, I think it's in red. Yes, so water, that medium is in red. Everything is water. But the second statement, remember, the air is filled, is only this cylinder or this region, okay? And they're doing this for whatever reasons they have this. It depends on the geometry or think the case that they wanted to study. So let's open our files, okay? So I have actually, so the first question was actually to calculate the depth dose in water for cobalt. So let's open this file. I'm going to change this to EGShome. And I have my phantom, okay. So in the geometry, so what I had was, okay, I used still the groups to define the slabs. I wanted 10 slabs of thickness of 0.1 millimeter. And that makes sense because cobalt, we know the buildup region, the Dmax is around 5 millimeters. So I want to have smaller regions, smaller. Remember, the dose is reported within that given region. Anything deposited in the region will be recorded as dose. So when you have a grade, yes.
Can you go back again? Because people, they said they don't know how to open the file.
Which file?
The file that you opened, the phantom file.
The dose RZ?
Yes.
Okay, okay, let's open this again. So, okay. So now this is the template. The dose are usually it should go to the template, which is X home, and you will find the PEGS data area to be in-house. Now, we actually made the Phantom PEGS data, and I know that's in my home area, so that's why I'm selecting X home. And now it will list down the different PEGS files that I have actually in my home area. So that is going to be, I'm going to select the Phantom, or the one I sent you, I probably it's the exercise, the one with exercise. That's fine, it doesn't matter really. I wanted the Phantom because the Phantom, the extrapolation chamber. Now, this is the dose template. It should open it automatically. It happens that I have actually made those files, input files myself. I'm just going to open the one for water. So I put a label. Depth DD is depth dose, cobalt is energy, and the medium is water. That's why I named the file this way. Now, we could actually depth dose in water due to cobalt with a 5 centimeter ring. This is don't have line. This is the title. But in order to know what the file defines, you need to then open it first and read the title in the file. I suggest always try to use the name of the file naming in such the way that you know, okay, what this file is talking about. I rarely actually modify this title. Everything is actually to the file name. It's quicker for me. Okay, so here in the geometry, this is what I'm interested in, the geometry part. Okay, the geometry part, since I want to calculate the depth dose in water, I have only one medium, which is water. Now, and I'm interested in the central axis depth dose. I could actually define other rings. There is nothing wrong with that, but I'm not interested in that. So I defined only two radius. The first one, inner one, is at 0.5 and the outer one 15. This could be 20, 100, it doesn't matter. Because the field size that I'm going to simulate has a radius of 5. The important thing is that I make sure the phantom, the geometry of the phantom dimension is larger than than the field size in order to get full scattering conditions. Okay, that's basic physics. Now, for along the depth, the central axis, okay, I'm interested. We could, for example, put 60 and put 1 centimeter or half a centimeter. Okay, so that means if you put 60 and half a centimeter, the total dimension in the Z direction is going to be 30 centimeters. But I wanted to actually have finer, let's say smaller slabs in a certain region and larger ones in a different region. So I put 10, start with 10 with 0.1. So these slabs, I have 10 slabs of thickness of 0.1. That will give me so these are the slabs in the built-up region up to 1 centimeter. And I purposely did that because, in the build-up region or Dmax, we have a large gradient there. So I wanted to actually have, it's the same concept. Can you use a chamber, for example, a large chamber to measure those in the build-up region? Probably not. You need probably a smaller chamber, small sized chamber, or even a parallel chamber, okay? Now, I put a second slab after those 10, I put one slab with 0.25. This is, I made it just for convenience, tell you the truth. Now, when the dose is reported in the simulation, it will report the dose as a function of the middle of the slab. So imagine if I did not have this line here, and I have 10.1 and then 50.5. So what will happen is that the dose will be recorded at 0.05 millimeters, at 0.015 millimeters, 0.025 millimeters, and so on. And after that, it will be recorded at 1.25 centimeters, and then 1.75 centimeters, and then 2.25 centimeters, 2.75, and so on. So I wanted to fix this 0.25. So I put actually one slab with 0.25. That means the doses when they've been recorded in the middle of the slabs, they're going to be at 1.5 centimeter, 2 centimeters, 2.5 centimeters. It's just for my convenience. Nothing wrong in ignoring that. Now, so I have 61 slabs, and I have 2 radii regions. So I'm assigning water. Z start from 1 up to 61, and R is 1 up to 2. Okay. So let's look at this. My recommendation is, when I started Monte Carlo, this preview RZ wasn't even there. We had to go and look it up in the, the file. It was a bit of a lot of work. But now the click a button, you get a geometrical representation of your phantom. So let's apply this. Okay. So these are the 10 slabs with thickness of 0.1. And then we have 1 slab with the thickness of 0.25, and then we have 50 slabs of thickness of 5 millimeters. So the dose, when I say the dose is going to be reported in the middle of the region, so remember the boundary is 1.75 and the boundary here is 1.25. So the dose is assigned to in between these 2 regions, which is going to be at 1.5. In particular, I wanted this for the depth dose at 10 because we love 10 centimeter. So if I go here, the 10 centimeter, so the boundaries, because I'm defining the boundaries, I need a boundary at 9.75 and a boundary at 10.25. And then the dose is going to be defined in the middle of these 2 boundaries, which is going to be 10 centimeters. Now, you can select, for example, you want these boundaries to be even smaller. So instead of this region to be 0.5 centimeter, you want it to be 2 millimeters. It's up to you. Okay, the smaller the region, then the more histories you need to reduce your statistical uncertainties. But that is still fair. Okay, clear so far? Okay. So in the Monte Carlo, so that's how I define the geometry for the depth dose. If you defined it in a different way, that is still fine. Nothing wrong in that. Okay. So when I ran the simulation with the 1 billion simulations, and let's look at. Okay. So XM Grace, and then we have DD cobalt water. Okay. So this is the XM Grace file. Okay. You have a very nice PDD. Okay, so this title is wrong, so forget about that. This is water actually. Okay. So if you have, once you do the simulations, even if you have it in Windows, you should have this file with an underscore dd dot xv. I forgot what's the extension. Yeah, plot data. That file is actually in a format suitable to be plotted immediately with Qt Grace for Windows or Grace for Mac. Now, if you look at this file, you can import. It's a text file. So if you don't like plotting it with those applications, that's fine. So let's look at more, or just Emacs. Okay. So I'm opening the file with an editor. So you see the file has whatever, these are some titles that Qt Grace understands, but then this is the data of interest. So look at these doses, they are reported in the middle of the region. So we should have something at 10. I think this is 10. This one is 10. So that is the dose, okay? And this is the uncertainty. We can take this data and plot it, and then normalize it to, for example, to the dose at Dmax and get a PDD. These doses are reported as dose per incident fluence. This is also another thing. You have to understand what what these doses mean. So because we're using a particle or like a source, it's per fluence. So basically it's per yeah. So it's a centimeter, it's gaze per centimeter squared per incident particle. Okay. So don't think when you actually run more simulations, the dose is going to grow. It will not grow because everything is then normalized to the number of incident particles. You want to actually increase the number of incident particles so that you reduce this uncertainty. You will get this uncertainty, want to reduce it. Now, in this case, my uncertainty is about 0.1%, which is fine, okay? Now, let's open another file, okay? Let's look at another file. Okay, the rest are, so I have one with solid water, that's fine. But this one, where I asked, okay, let's put a heterogeneity, of lung somewhere. I think I gave you the 3 centimeter in the problem. So let's select that. Okay, let's look at the geometry. So the geometry, again, remains the same, 0.5 to 1.5, and these slabs remain the same. But now what I've done, okay, first statement, I'm assigning water to all regions in the phantom. But then I'm assigning lung to regions between 16 and 25. These regions, I will go and, okay, understand the geometry. I know the depth. So then I will just from, Bilal, please admit those because I keep going back to admit people and so on. So please look at the participants and there are 2 in the waiting room.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So basically, I need to go back and see, okay, region 16, where is region 16? Okay, is it at the depth that I want or not? And that's why this is a good tool to have the preview RZ, because I could guess, I could say, okay, I'm going to put it at 13, for example. Okay. So when I do this and open preview RZ, then let's increase these properties. Okay, so I'll put this 0, and let's, okay, apply. Okay, so these are my 10 1 millimeter slabs. This is the one to adjust the depths and so on. And then, okay, so here, for example, if I said we need to be at 3 centimeters, this is not correct. I forgot what's in the question, okay? But if we need to actually start from 3 centimeters, then this boundary should be at 3 centimeters. So we need to fix that. We need to probably remove this or adjust something so that, but at least now I know, for example, because the region 16, when I said region 16, it's actually very close to what I am. So these are going to be, I think, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So we're starting at 16. Okay. Now I think 5 centimeters, these are 10 regions. So if this is 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, I forgot count, okay. But it's here, 25, okay? This is 10 centimeter. These are, or I think in the question, 5 centimeters, okay? So that corresponds to 5 centimeters. Now, 1 to 2, because I don't want the lung to only just be here in the central axis, but I want like a full slab, across the phantom to be lung, okay? And then let's go back. Okay, again, yes.
Yes, they are asking you to show how to modify the uncertainty again.
Which to modify it?
Yes, to reduce the uncertainty. How to do it again?
You just need to simulate more particles. So let me copy something. Okay, let me do something. Copy. Okay, so let's copy the dose cobalt. Okay, water. This is my input file. I'm going to copy it to test.exe EGS input. Okay. Okay, let's open it again. Okay, and I will demonstrate to you this now. Okay, so let's open the file. The new file, it's called test. Okay, and fine, I'm going to use the same data. So now I'm going to make fun of Windows users. Okay. Okay, so let's start with 1 million. This is okay. I have correct. This is 1 million. Okay, and this is the first simulation. Okay, so here in the input-output control first. So I saved it. Execute. Okay, we're going to run it. Okay, so I'm just going to wait for some time. While this is calculating. Any other questions? If you have questions, just raise your hand. Okay, maybe 1 minute is too much. Okay, gonna take a long time, so I'm gonna kill this. Okay, let's reduce it. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna put 10,000. Right. Execute, and then let's run this. Okay. So this should be okay. This done. No. Maybe this is too small. Let's add another 0 and save. Run. Okay. Okay, this is more reasonable. Okay, so now we have simulated 100,000. Now let's look at again XM Grace, and now the file is test. Why we don't have it here? We have only the input file in general. I've used this. Okay, that's fine. Let's do it again. So let's save. Okay, and geometry, input output. Sorry, the Monte Carlo controls. Okay, maybe that's why. That's why I was. Let's put 100,000. This 100,000 input output control first. Okay. Now let's execute. Run the simulation. Okay. So simulation done. Okay. So now let's plot XM Grace test and then DD. Okay. You see how noisy this is? You see these uncertainties? This looks like a PDD, but the uncertainties are large. Okay. If we look at the values, let me open the other file so that we. Okay. So, and okay. So you see, roughly it's the same, right? We're getting 6 10 to the power minus 12, the fluence. But this was simulated, modeled with 1 billion, and this one with only 100,000. So if you, this is, yeah, but it's just that the uncertainty is low. So what to do next is probably, if you are a Windows user, then okay, you have ran this, it's fine. So you go to the input-output control, and now you do restart. So now to, okay, and usually, so now let's put another 900. So now this will take everything to 1 million. Execute, run. So as you see here, because it's a restart. It said, okay, we actually simulated 100,000 histories, and now we're adding 900,000 histories to the simulation. Okay, almost done. Okay. If you're interested to know, for example, to have an estimate, look at this. For example, I can estimate is, where does it say something like this? Okay. This, so if we look at the output, this file, CPU time per history. This is the CPU time per history, or per hour, we can actually model. So it's about 100,000, 100 million per hour, right? So if you want to do 1 billion, you need 10 hours. Correct? But if you use parallel processing, then you can do the 10 billion in 1 hour. Okay, so this is an estimate. So usually I do this when I run a simulation, let's say for 1 million, because I know this uncertainties are going to be high. I need to actually run them for more. So just at the end of this output file, you will find there this statement. It gives you an estimation how many histories per hour you can actually simulate. Okay, and then, okay. So now let's go back and look at the statistics. So XM Grace, let's look at this test file. Okay. So now you look, you see, it's still roughly around 6, 10 to the power minus 12, but you see the statistics, the bars are smaller now. So as a rule of thumb, if you you double the number of part histories, then you reduce your uncertainties by roughly a square root of n, or the like if you double, you will reduce the uncertainty by square root of 2. So if my uncertainty, for example, was 10%, then if that's based on 1 million particles and I restarted it, another million, the 10% is going to be reduced to by roughly around square root of 2. Okay.
There is a question, Dr. Wamid.
Okay.
Where we get the information of how much uncertainty is present in the BDD data?
You open the file. You open the file. Okay. So here you open. I mean, obviously from the plot, this is large. You have 2 ways to do it. Okay. The first way is if I want to look at the let me open it, Emacs. Depth dose, no, test. It's a test directly. Because I'm playing this on a monitor far from my eyes, so that's why I'm struggling to type things properly. Okay, depth dose. Okay. So here, for example, I've opened that file. And for example, I look at depth of 10. Depth of 10 is probably somewhere here. Okay. So here, this is the value, and this is the statistical uncertainty. So this is roughly around 10%, right? There is another way. We can actually look at the output file. So we can look at this file. Test. I just don't know which one. XList. I think it's XList. Okay. Is it this one? No. X list. Okay. This is how we used to in the past actually verify our geometry. So it's everything is printed in our output in this EGSlist file. So it tells you, you see, it shows you 0 to 0.5, and the medium is water. And then from 0.5 up to 15, the medium is again water. And this is the mass of the medium. Here, we also see the boundaries, okay? Now, if we go down, so now this part is just showing us the values that are entered. Now here, let's go back, still mass. Okay, now here it's showing us the doses. So it's telling us in that region, okay, this is the total dose. T means total dose, and that's the uncertainty of the total dose, 15%. T minus S, this is the total minus scatter. So that's the primary dose only. So basically, primary dose is defined by dose coming from the source, not from the phantom. Okay, again 15. If we go and look at the uncertainties at depth of 10, let's say here, so it's here. So it was about 6. This is the uncertainty. That's the dose, and that's the uncertainty there. Okay, the smaller the region, the more particles you need. So for example, you can go and modify this file and change the radius from 0.5 to 0.25. Then you will find, okay, you need to actually simulate more histories to get uncertainties similar to those you obtained with 0.5. Okay, so this is another way to actually look at these uncertainties. Clear? Okay, let's look at that PEC. I've actually made it today. So do I have it here? Yes. Okay. So that's fine. Oh, for parallel process, I mean, well, I'm going to have a session actually, maybe sometime next week for Linux users, so that to demonstrate, how to actually run these simulations with parallel processing. Then you can significantly reduce your time. And maybe for those RZ is not really that big of a difference, but when you do when we do the beam simulation, those XYZ, you'll find you probably need that. So in the geometry, these are the 6 lines or 5 lines that I showed you in the presentation. Okay, and these are the material, these are the radius, and I've used I could have used individual, but I used the group entry level. So because it's better, I know the thicknesses. It's easier for me just to put the thicknesses. So I have 0.5 because now I wanted to actually simulate this chamber to be at Dmax for cobalt. So I put 0.5 centimeter solid water on top. And then this here, that's where I have the Mylar electrode. This is the air. And then I have the graphite. And then I have something to adjust for the Dilbrin. And then I have 10 centimeters of water. So if we preview this, okay, and let's change that. And then let's do that, apply. Okay, I think I need more. Okay. So now this is how it looks like. Okay. So this is the 50 micrometers, and that material is Mylar here. That is there. I wonder if I can change these colors. Maybe there is a way, yes, so that we can actually, let's try to change it. Yeah, so let's try this. So that it's clear now. So Mylar, probably let's also modify this region here. This one, let's put it something like blue. Okay, purple. A lot of you know how bad I am in selecting colors. I like to tease you. Okay, so air, you see that's in yellow, that's here. This is Mylar, and this region here, that is the graphite, okay, carbon. And the rest This red is solid water, and this is our Dillon ring. Okay, so just by entering those five, you could use the long approach. You should get the same geometry, the same everything. It should be the same. So my suggestion is always, once you do this, save the file. You need to save the file and then hit on preview so that you see the geometry. Does it represent what you want or it does not? Then you modify accordingly. Okay. Any other questions?
There's one question, Dr. Omid.
Okay.
Is RZ simulation on CACs for Linux will give some same result as for Linux simulation?
No. Well, let him speak out. Let Omar speak out.
Omar, please go ahead.
You have to explain. You have to explain your question.
Okay. I'm just asking if I do a full simulation, Monte Carlo simulation using EGSnrc, for instance,
Okay.
and I do the simulation using the RZ geometry, will the result on the central axis be the same?
Well, what is your source? Your source is the
same,
beam?
like if I'm using Cobalt or whatever it is, the machine.
No, you have to explain what you're talking about, because we're talking about, I think there are two things you're confusing. EGSnrc is basically because a Linux cannot be represented by an RZ geometry. How can you represent the jaws by an RZ geometry? You can't.
Okay.
How can you represent, for example, MLCs with an RZ geometry? You can't. Okay?
Okay.
So the beam is basically, you have multiple geometries that we were going to talk about that later on. But
okay.
Suppose you did your simulation from the Linux, from the beam, and you got a phase space file, or okay, then your phantom, you can use the RZ. That's not a problem. But you cannot definitely use the RZ to model a linear accelerator, because the geometry there is not an RZ geometry. It's different geometries. Different regions require different geometries. Make sense?
Yes, thank you. Thanks.
Okay. Okay. So here, for example, this is the exercise. Okay. So this is water. I've got the data, the 1 billion simulations, and this for solid water. And the reason why I wanted to actually do this simulation is to actually convince you that solid water and water are not the same. Okay. So we cannot, for example, measure the dose in solid water and say, okay, that's the dose in water. Especially when we want to calibrate. Companies, they come up and say, companies, they can promote their product and they say, oh, okay, solid water is water, you know, TG51 equivalent. That's when it came out. It's TG51 equivalent and so on. But if you, because I'm using the same source, I'm using cobalt. Now, if the two materials are the same, we should get these two curves the same. Okay, we should get them matching. But if we normalize now both curves to maximum, D max, then probably these two curves are going to be on top of one another. So solid water, it's a good phantom to actually measure with it relative doses. There is no problem with that. But absolute, the dose in solid water is different than the solid. There is about 3% difference, okay, for COVID. Okay, and that's why you need the uncertainties, because when I claim there is a 3% difference, okay, that's the dose, that's the uncertainty, this is the dose, this is the uncertainty, and this is the ratio. So I've actually calculated here the ratio. Did I plot it somewhere? Let's see. No, I don't have it plotted. But the ratio, just all what I've done, I have a phantom of water, I replace it with solid water. That's all, and run the simulation again. So this is the ratio. I forgot which one is higher. I think the water, yeah, water is higher. So the solid water, the dose there is 3% lower than that for water. Okay, so I think Bilal, you said you have actually made the other plastic. You made the PEGS file for the other plastic data that I have in the assignment, like the virtual water and so on. If you can share this with all of us, and then we run the simulation and we see, for example, is that material as they claim, is it similar to water?
Okay, let's make it from my laptop. I have it now.
You put it in the school, put it in the classroom.
Sure.
Share it through there. That's better.
Okay.
Okay. Because then it's going to be available.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So these are the kind of things we study. Actually, we can use Monte Carlo to answer these questions. Okay. Now for lung, I did not do it actually, but I want you to actually. We had this debate actually. Me and Bilal, we were solving some graphics questions. And basically the question is, okay, what's the dose for megawattage in bone? You know, when you have this, the bone material. And he got it right, I got it wrong. So one way to actually see what happens is you model. This is why I put the lung and the bone. And then we can plot the two curves. We can look at for water, with the two curves and see what happens to the dose in the bone region and beyond that. Is it still going to be the same as water or not? One thing we have to be careful of is in the planning systems report doses to water. They don't report doses to medium of bone. This is also another project, okay? For example, and that is doable by the dose XYZ that I will show you how to do that. For example, that heterogeneity phantom, the bone, okay, we can put it, the treatment planning system, the bone is, it uses water. So it's because it's based on CT numbers, okay? But the density of that region, density of these voxels are different, are not going to be one, but it's actually going to be like 2 or whatever based on the CT numbers. Lung is the same thing. The treatment planning system calculates, assumes lung is water actually, but with a lower density, a density of 0.3 or 0.26, okay? But with Monte Carlo, we can actually replace the bone. Instead of water, we can actually put bone material where we have calcium and so on. Again, for lung, we can replace it with the composition of actual lung, not water with a density weighted, okay? And then we can actually compare. Okay, is the dose, how different the dose in treatment planning system, reporting doses to water, even in this heterogeneous medium, compared to the actual doses to that medium. This we can do actually with Monte Carlo. I think there are newer planning systems that give you the option to do the calculation in medium and so on. I don't know about the Accurus algorithm. I know you assign medium to different regions, but probably it reports the dose to water. It does not report the dose to the medium. Okay? So I don't know, what's your suggestion? Should we stop here and give it a shot again at that assignment, look at questions, or if you feel comfortable, should I introduce the dose XYZ? So let me know.
There's a question before we go for this.
Okay.
Is the density of lungs same for all, or it varies by age?
when we say density of lung, we know that if the patient inhales or exhales,
exhale,
it's different, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So here we're talking about some static density of lung. So when we say when I use lung of density of 0.3, this is an average. It's not just by age, but even on the same person, it depends on the state, exhaling or inhaling, right?
Okay, now we go for Dr. Omid's suggestion. Shall we give it another try, the assignments? If you are with this, please raise your hand so we can know if you are with this or no.
Because the dose XYZ is going to take a bit of time, just to explain it. So maybe it's better that we stop and introduce it next week, maybe. Because I don't think in half an hour I can actually, although the concept is roughly the same, but because you cannot get the doses simple, like like here, you have this underscore DD file. With dose XYZ, you need something, a bit of work there, but you can get some, a few things that are interesting. Let me show you.
Okay, so some people, they are asking just to give a brief introduction for the dose XYZ today, and next week you talk about it in details.
Okay, so dose XYZ, let's see, show. You're gonna love this, okay? Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. So this is obviously the dose distribution for an electron.
Electron.
Okay, this is actually for 9 MeV electrons. Okay, so these are nice things we can do with dose XYZ. It's no longer, it's not an RZ geometry, but a voxel, voxels. Okay, like what we have on CTs and so on. Okay, and obviously we can actually load patient CT data and somehow convert, the densities into different materials and so on, and calculate with Monte Carlo what is the dose distribution in the patient. Okay, so let's start with a brief introduction to dose XYZ. Okay.
Can we take 2 questions before you start?
Okay.
Okay. So one question saying, how do we compare experimental measurement data with the Monte Carlo simulated data?
So what do you measure? Okay, Singh, what do you measure experimentally?
You can speak out, Singh.
Hello. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. If we measure the PDT data with the water phantom experimentally, and we want to compare that measurement data with the simulated data, then how can we?
Well, you can use the RZ, right? But then you normalize everything to Dmax because you're measuring PDD and PDD.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, I have one query regarding the uncertainty. In measurement data, how do we compare the uncertainties between the Monte Carlo versus the experimental measurement data?
Well, you want the Monte Carlo, you obviously want to have, a lot of histories to get the uncertainties. What sort of uncertainties do you accept in your PDD measurements? If I told you I know the PDD within 5%, are you going to accept that?
Okay.
Huh? Are you going to accept that? So I told you, okay, the PDD 6MV is 66 plus or minus 5%. So it could be 7. This is my measurement. I measure something.
No.
You're not going to accept this, right? But if I told you, okay, I have my PDD, I know this within, let's say, 1% or 0.5%. This is an acceptable PDD that for measurement, you're accepting that. That's fine. When you do the simulation, you also calculate the PDD curves to uncertainties that you accept.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Another two questions.
We're gonna do this actually when we do the beam simulation, beam NRC. Oh, this is going to you're gonna hate that because you need to tweak the beam model, and the only way that you make sure your beam model is correct is by comparing whatever simulation gives you from the PDD with the measurements as well as the profiles and so on. Okay, what's the next question?
Can we convert the PDD curve dose to relative in dose?
But this is what we talked about, right? Convert the PDD curve. It's a PDD. PDD is relative already.
Yeah, that's it. This is what the question is a bit weird. Okay, can we relate number of histories with absolute dose? Like if I want to deposit 1 gray dose to a volume, how many histories would I have to run?
No, that's a wrong question, because Monte Carlo reports everything per incident history. Mm-hmm. It does not report because this is how you want your uncertainty. You know, it's based on uncertainties. So you cannot, for example, say, for example, 10,000 is going to deposit. Obviously, the more particles you simulate, the more actually doses is deposited in the volume. But that's in Monte Carlo, that's not a quantity of interest because everything is based on simulation and we need to get statistical uncertainty on that. So we report everything based on incident particle. But to answer your question in a different way, when we want to, for example, for a linear accelerator, we want to, for example, because in a linear accelerator, we actually an MU, right? When we treat patients, we say, okay, 500 monitor units, 200 monitor units, and that correlates to a dose. Then you need to find some way. Usually what I would suggest is, okay, when you monitor, you do your beam simulation, then you record the dose in the monitoring chamber. And from there, you can get, okay, the dose at Dmax relative to the dose in the monitoring chamber, because that defines it. We're going to look at these questions. We're going to do it when we do beam simulations.
Last question. Can we compare PDD curve generated from RZ geometry to measured from RFA?
Yes, of course you can. Why not? What prevents you?
Okay, go ahead, Dr. Omid.
Okay, this is, as you're going to see, this is how we make sure when we do the beam simulation, okay, the companies, they give us whatever geometries and so on, but there are some issues they don't give us, and we have to figure out, we have to guess, we have to tweak, we have to manipulate, and that's just to, and we rely a lot on the measurements. We know we measure the PDDs, accurately. We have the profiles. So we start to actually do simulations, and with the simulation, we calculate the PDDs and profiles and compare to the measurements. If they're off, then we go and modify a little bit something in the simulation. We tweak that until we get them matched. Okay? Don't think Monte Carlo is accurate. Your measurement is what you rely on. Okay? Okay. Can we compare? Okay. Is it difficult to follow what you do in the console window? I find, okay, fine, Hiba. What can I do? Can we relate number of histories with absolute doses? Yes, this will, okay. Okay, so I think we talked
went
about,
through all the questions. Yeah, you can go ahead. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so now we'll go to the dose XYZ input file. Okay. So when I open this shortcut, okay, I think on Windows is going to be the same. Okay, so these GUIs are going to be the same. File, you can start, for example, use an input file or load the previous input file. Okay, so let's start with new input file. Okay, here we select what is our PEGS data. PEGS list is tell the system I don't want PEGS data, so we can actually this is the phantom. I'm going to load that. Okay, now we have one window. Okay, but then there are different, for example, the stuff that is related to the Monte Carlo, the number of histories, restart or first time, this is going to be actually here. So here I have the number of histories is here. Okay, so 100. So I can increase that. This is the, remember the CPU hours, this maximum, we're going to put as 500. It was 0.99. So if the simulation 1 hour, then that's it. It's not going to simulate more. Okay, and we don't want that. These are the seeds. We don't have to worry about these. Run option first time, restart, so probably first time. This is something, how far less, maybe I can explain it today or maybe next time. Okay, the physics part is here. So when I click on the physics part, physics, you know, that's the simulation parameters, I get this window. Remember last time I told you for the physics, in order to take advantage of the physics in the accurate physics of EGSnrc, because EGS went through different phases. Okay, the physics was not as good as today. So I told you, first thing, this, we need to have it exact. And this press the 2, this is fine, press the 2. One more thing is the spin effects. I cannot see it from here, spin effects. Yeah, here, spin effects. This is on. These are the 3 things that, okay, you take advantage of the more accurate physics embedded in the EGSnrc. The rest is not, these are probably for photons, not really a big deal. So in mega voltage, maybe I don't want to use bound content, but if I want to, I can on and so on. This is, for example, the pair angular sampling. We went through this, I think, last time. Okay. Atomic relaxation, I did not mention that last time. Atomic relaxation is basically to get characteristic X-rays from the medium. So you want actually, this is important, especially when we're doing things in the diagnostic range. We want to actually have the bound content. We want the Rayleigh to be on, okay? And probably also want to do the atomic relaxations. This is very important, especially when we do X-ray tube modeling. We want to actually get the characteristic X-rays from the targets of the target. So that's the physics part. Okay. Then let's save. Yeah, let's save it. Okay, we'll do this as test. Okay. Fine. It's complaining I don't have a title. So put test. And then let's save it. Oh, there. Okay, you cannot. I don't know what's this here. Okay. Anyway, the part that you really need to spend time or understand a lot is the geometry. Those RZ, I hope we covered it in the presentation. It was clear for everyone. Now, for here, we're going to start with non-CT data.
Dr. Omid, it's complaining because of the source type. You did not select. Under the photon, there is source type.
Oh, okay. This here. Okay,
yes.
That's fine. Okay. Okay, let's deal with this. So here, I actually have one, well, I think it's 3-point source with rectangular. So the nice thing with this is that now I can actually use a square, make a square field, not like like those RZ. I did not have that option. So here, this is the lower. So this is going to be -5. So let's do a 10 by 10. This is upper 5, and then we have -5 and 5. And here is the energy. Let's do the cobalt, 1.25, again, monoenergetic. And that's it. Okay. So let's see if now, save input file.
You did not put the SSD.
It doesn't, okay, I did not put it, but okay, good. So we can edit that. Edit, so this is 3 here, okay? So let's put 100, or 80 actually for cobalt. Usually it's 80, the SSD, okay? Okay. Now, this part, this is the cutoff. I usually don't worry about it because it will always take the AE from the medium, from the whatever in the fixed data file. But if you want to have something higher, so even if you're doing simulation of, let's say, using the 0.521 AE, you might still want to, for example, any electron with energy less than 1 MeV, just dump the energy, don't simulate. You can adjust this here, but I usually leave it. I don't care about that. Okay, so now we need to, again, remember in the RZ geometry, what did we do? We defined first the boundaries, and then we filled up these regions with medium, right? So again, the same thing. So now when I do that, I have something for the Z, for the X voxels, for the Y voxels, and for the Z voxels. Z will be the depth direction. X and Y, those are for profiles. You have two options, individual or groups. Of course, individual is not interesting for us because then you have to put the boundaries one by one. Probably group is more interesting. And here, the number of X voxels or groups. So if I'm using the individual, then it's basically the number of voxels. But if I'm using the groups, then I'm talking about the number of groups. So I'll just show you a demonstration of this. For example, let's do 3 groups, okay? And let's define the voxels. So when I do this, see it opened 3 groups. So the first group, I will have 1 slab, and with that slab, I will have, sorry, it's the opposite. So this is 10, and I have 1 slab, or 1 group, 10 centimeter, okay? And here, let's put, so if 10, let's put 20, 30, 40, let's put 80, okay? And let's here put 0.25. Sorry, the opposite. This is 80, and this is 0.25, okay? And then I'm going to put 10 and 1. Okay. So what I've done is basically I'm defining the boundaries. I have, let's say in the X direction, I have a slab of 10 centimeter, and then I have 80 slabs of 0.25, and then I have 1 slab of 10 centimeters. But I want to make this such that this middle voxel or middle is actually at the 0, 0, at 0. So I need to define, okay, what is the minimum boundary. So for example, suppose I put this to be 0, okay, then I have, this is actually 4, so the total length of these slabs is 40 centimeters. But remember, 0 and then 40, I want to center it. Okay, so what I need to do, I'm going to put this to be minus 20. So now the maximum value is going to be 20. So the phantom or the X voxels, they go from minus 20 up to 20 centimeters. Clear? So I'm going to put OK. The Y probably, sorry, the Y, we want to actually make them as groups. And again, we will do the same thing. Okay. And here we have minimum. This is going to be minus 20. Minus 20. Then the width is 10. Number of groups, this is 1. This is 0.25. This is 80. And then we have here, I have 10 and I have 1. Okay. There is a limit of the number of voxels. I forgot how 128 or something. So when we do CT data, because we need to do 512, right? We have to go to the Mortran code and change something. That we'll change it when we have to. Just to check. So now the upper boundary is 20. Clear so far? Okay. So here, how many voxels, how many slabs or regions do we have? I have 80, 82, right? We have here 82. And here we have 82. Now, for the Z, we're going to do it by a group. So the number, let's put 1, 2, so let's do the same, okay, 3. So we'll do something similar to what we have done for our RZ calculation. So the first, this is 0, because starting from the 0 surface. And then we had, what's this? This is the width. We had 10 slabs, remember, of 10 slabs of thickness of 0.1. We had the second one, we had only 0.25. And this one we had 1. Okay. And then I can put here, let's put 80. So 10. So 10. Okay. I can put here, let's say 0.2. We adjust it a little bit. So let's see what's the depth we have, 25 centimeter. Should we increase it? So let's put 0.25. So our phantom is going to be, this is 21. Okay, I read something wrong. So let's put 0.5. This is now 40 centimeter. Okay, we'll use that. Okay. So after I've entered these, let's see if it'll allow me to save. I'm a saving freak. Always when I do something, I like to go and save. So let's calculate the number of boxes. That's important. Or you know, in each direction. Here we have 82. This one we have 82. How about here? We have 10, 11. This is wrong. I think this should be 80, and this should be 0.5. I forgot what value I entered. Okay, 0.5. Okay, so we have 91 here. So we have 82 along the X and 91 on the Z direction. Here is number of medium. So we have 1. Okay, what's the medium we're going to use? We're going to use water. Okay, and then we set the voxels. So there, this is Z, X 1 up to 82. Y is 1 up to 82. And then, Y is 1 up to 82. And Z is 1 up to 91. Okay, and we're going to define, we want this to be water. Now, this density of water is 1. But as I told you, in CT simulations, in 3D planning systems, they actually, using the CT numbers, they actually calculate doses in water, but for different densities. So for example, I can select voxels, certain number of voxels, and still use medium. But for example, I give the density to be 0.3. This will override the density of the medium in the PEGS data file. And that I could use that for lung, for example. Bone, I could replace the density to be, for example, 2.6. So that, or if I want to do true Monte Carlo simulations, then I would just use the lung medium as in the PEGS, okay, or the bone medium. So this is fine. So it's per group. This statement, it will replace everything with water. Okay, and that's probably what we want. If I want to actually, so if, for example, if I put here 2, just to show you, okay, and then define, now, okay, now I have option to actually select another medium. I can select, for example, air, and set the voxels for the air, okay, or start setting the voxels. So this is for water, then add a group, okay, and then I put whatever voxels I wanted and put this to be air. Clear? Okay, I hope it's clear. But we can repeat this again next time. Now here, output for X file. This is not necessary, and unless you want to use the dose X, Y, Z show that I have displayed, you know, with the electron beams, with that application, that's the dose X, Y, Z show. So if you want, for example, to use this phantom to show it there, then you can, then this you need to tick it. Okay. So I've just done, and the source is fine. This
you put the media too. It should be one. Dr. Omid.
Okay, let's go and change it again. Okay, yeah. So let's put 1. Okay, I just want to make sure water. And this is fine. Okay, so the remove last group, that's fine. Okay. We can't do this. Let's put it down. Now, this thing can basically, the phantom that we have is basically everything is water, right? We've used water. There is no different medium in this geometry. Now, to speed up the calculation speed is we turn on what's called how far less. How far less is basically an algorithm used when it tracks the particle. The particle, let's suppose it's in a given voxel, it needs to know the boundaries of these voxels, because just adjacent or next to that voxel, it could be a different material. So what happens with the Monte Carlo simulation is that it transports the particle to the boundary. And then from the boundary, it will figure how it's going to go into this new medium. Of course, once you have these questions, okay, what's my boundary? How far is the boundary in my direction, and so on, that results in more simulation times. So if you have your phantom to be uniform, the same material, one way to reduce the calculation speed is to stop telling the code, don't ask that question. Just take just transport it. Okay. So in this case, we want to actually turn this to be on. This is what's called how far less. Okay. But if you have different heterogeneities, okay, you need to turn this to be off. Okay. Now there is something as a thickness. Okay, we can actually, let's go back and define something in here. So I'm going to put 2. Okay, and define the medium. Okay, to be air. That's fine. Okay. I forgot what medium of region outside phantom. Yeah, okay. I don't know why I cannot actually activate this. Save, run. Okay, I don't know why I cannot activate this. But for example, maybe this is not, okay, let's look at that. The help. It has much better help, than the RZ. You have things graphically explained and so on. So basically, I wanted to actually define to be the medium outside my phantom to be air. Here it's selected as vacuum. I don't know why I cannot define it. Maybe there is a parameter that I need to activate or something like this. But let's look at this source tree. Okay. Okay. If you click on the help, you see this is the geometry. So you have your point source. You're defining this. This is the distance, which is this parameter here. Okay, and then we're defining the upper and lower fields, X and Y directions. So that's why I put -5 here, because this is positive. I need to define this to be -5 and this to be 5. Okay, again, for this will give me a 10 by 10 field on the phantom surface. You can explore other sources, have fun. So here, this is a parallel beam. Okay, help. You see, it's like this. So now there is no divergence. We could use that, but then there's no divergence. This is just parallel beam coming from the front. Okay, and so on. So I will leave this to you let's put this again, make sure. So 1.25, unless for fun, let's use a spectrum. Okay, browse current directory and has a spectrum. Let's see. Okay, so instead of having monoenergetic, I'm using a spectrum file. Okay, photons, fine. Okay, then, okay. Now let's save and let's test. We did not do, I think I have compiled it. I think mine is compiled. Okay, and let's interactive. Okay, let's execute. You see, I'm getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That is fine. That means, you know, I have no problem in the output. Maybe the output is completely wrong. You know, like the regions are wrong and the medium are wrong, but at least I did not miss any, or the field size is wrong. Could be. So here at the end, for example, where there's this number of charged particles, I want to know the number of history. Okay, I can actually do this number of histories. So this is about 3 million per history per hour. Okay, remember it was faster with the dosrznrc. We can go and let me show you something. Change. So let's edit the parameters. Let's turn this to be on, off. Okay. So I suspect simulation probably is going to take a longer time. Run. Execute. Okay. Is it the same? Probably the same, I think, or a little bit different. Okay. So this is, you know, this is the dose XYZ code. I just gave you, the physics should remain the same, like what we have explained with the dosrznrc, but the geometry is a little bit different, and this is probably a geometry that we want to, you know, explore. Of course, someone is going to ask me, how do you extract the data? Okay, now you did the simulation. Okay, this one is a bit not trivial. And with Windows also, you don't have like a DD file, a DD output, like for plot. What you need to do is you need to do something stat dose. So that's an application. Okay. I know people hate these terminal applications, but that's what they provide us. So the first thing we need to do is to read the distribution. So I'm going to do 1. Okay. And where am I? Oh, because I need to be actually in the folder. Okay. I need to be in the dose XYZ folder. And we run again stat dose. So when I put read, it will give me a list of files that we have simulated and has a dose matrix. Let's think of these are dose matrices. Okay, so we did the test one, but let's do the code. Okay, that one I ran, I think, earlier. But let's do the first one. So I'm going to select the 9MEV. Okay, file number. So we need to store that file in a certain location. Okay, so now I read it and I'm going to store it, because you can actually read 2 different distributions and then add them if you want. So for example, think of it. We can make a simulation with a beam coming from the top and then a beam coming from the side. Okay, because we cannot define 2 beams. Remember, we cannot define 2 sources. We define only 1 source. So either from up or on the side. Now I can read the distribution from the beam coming from the top, the distribution from the beam coming from the side, and then I add them here. Okay, so I can read another distribution, so I can read distribution 2 and then add it or do whatever I want. So now let's go back to a medium. Okay, normalization, rebinning, plot. So I want to do plot. I want to plot this. So I'm going to do 3. Okay, because plotting will give me something that is usable for with the QT grace. What did I select 3? Okay, I need to go back. Okay, plot is 5. Okay. And there, I want to plot a profile. So I'm going to do that. Number of file to plot. So because I only loaded one file to the memory, that's for number one. Axis of profile. So since I want a PDD, I'm going to select it to be on the Z direction. So that is 3. Okay, this is the title. Okay, out file name, fine. Let's use that as a file name. Number of cares to plot. Now I want something, I only want PDD. But for example, if you want profiles, if you want in the same plot to get the profiles, let's say at Dmax and at 3 centimeters, and then you can tell the system, okay, I want 3 profiles. Okay, and then you will define each one where it's going to be. But in this case, I want one only. So number of cares to plot is 1. Okay, and this is the coordinate of the axis. So because I want it in the Z, I need to define what's the XY of that line. So in this case, since I want it in the central axis, there's going to be 0, 0. There it is. Okay. So you see, that is the PDD for the 9MEV simulation. Okay. If we want to do a profile, then I can go back, axis of rotation, so axis, then I can do 1, for example. So that's in the X. Okay, title, fine, output, okay. Number of cares, let's take 2, that's for fun. Okay, now generate automatic offset. I don't know what this means, so that I'll always take the default, no. Okay, coordinate of axis. So let's take one at Dmax for 9, it's probably around 2 centimeters. So let's take, so the Z has to be 2. And the Y is going to be 0. So 0 and 2. Okay. And then I think this is the second curve we want. We're going to take to be, let's say 0 and let's take 4. Okay. 0 and 4. Okay. So now we have profiles. So this is the profile. Okay. This is now the profile at Dmax. Okay. And this is the profile at 4 centimeters. I know this is at 4 centimeters because the dose, remember, it records dose, absolute dose, or dose per particle simulation. So this is definitely smaller than the dose at 2 centimeters. Then you have the file, you can grab it, put it in Excel, make better plots, whatever you want to do. Okay, but with those XYZ, you need to use the stat dose application in order to get these profiles. Okay. Yeah. So are there any questions? Because now we're just approaching 2 hours. There is no preview XYZ window, okay? Unfortunately, maybe there is, but I don't think there is.
There's another question. What does it mean by incident beam size, which was set to 100?
What's that? Where is this? Can we say I don't see it here.
What does it mean by incident beam size? Where? Which was set to 100. I think it's in the parameter when you edit the
file?
source. Yeah, I guess so.
Look, when you, the best thing, it does have actually a very nice help file, right? So my suggestion is you just go and read what's there. Okay, let's. So in the sources, right?
Yes.
Source 3. Okay, where is that? Because I know there is an SSD and there is no beam size here. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Is that? Yeah. Go ahead.
Yes, it is. It is installed. It's installed by default. If not, then you need to just compile it. But I think it's there. The question, is it compiled or not? I think it's compiled by default. But if it's not, it's in the hen-house directory. So let's go and show you cd EGS. That's also for the Windows. You will find it in the hen-house directory. The way to see if it's compiled or not, just open the shell and type statdos. If it runs, it's compiled. If not, then it needs to be compiled. So it's in the hen-house, and those XYZ and beamrc, those two programs, they're together, and they are in a directory called Omega. So when I go into the hen-house, then there is a directory called Omega. Okay, then there is the programs. Okay, and you can see it there. So there is a stat dose. I think that's the last one. Okay, add face space file is something we're going to use, the first one, and so on. So what you do is you go to stat dose, and you issue the command make, or in Windows it's going to be the min GW32, right? Make.
Yes.
So that's what it should be. It should be compiled. But if it's not, or what you need to do. So here I can do make clean. This removes it, and then make is going to compile it. Okay, but it should be compiled. Okay. Any other questions? Or should we call it a day?
I think it's
okay.
How we can change. Yes, Mortran from 100. It's 128, Dr. Omid, by default.
For the those XYZ?
Yes.
Yeah, that's simple. Okay. I'll show you quickly, but maybe you can go it because I think he's looking into doing CT simulations. So let's go to CD, EGSnrc, and then those XYZ. Okay. By the way, there is a subdirectory, should be examples. So that is something you can look into. So I think it's in the Emacs, those XYZ, and then there is a macro, user macros. You see that one? Okay. If you open that, okay, and you go down, these are comments. This is it. You see it? So this is the max number of cells. Okay, so 128, 128, 128. This is for all the X and Y, Z directions. So for example, I can change this. What I forgot is one represents the number of slides and one represents, so I forgot these things. Okay, 512. Okay, 512, and I think this one is 512. And what's here? We need to do a maximum somewhere, maximum number of, okay. Somewhere, yeah. So if you do that, the problem is you can, I think you will have a problem with stat dose when you do this. Stat dose also has a limit, and I forgot what the limit is for stat dose. You will face a problem when you do this. So if you do that, if you change it, and so what you need to do is you type make clean, okay, or you will type min GW32 make clean. So this will remove the compiled version of those XYZ, and then you type make again. So now it's going to be compiled with the maximum number of boxes to be 512, 512 X and whatever, X and Z. Okay, so that's how you do it. With Xmax set 512, okay, still resolution is not okay. It does not accept more than 512. Where is that?
He's asking about the Mortran. Which one you modified, the X or Y or Z to 512?
Both, right? Because we have, if I'm doing CT simulations based on CT data, right? So we have this pair slice, we have the boxes 512 by 512. So we need to set that 512, 512. Let me go and change it because I don't want it, because the stat dose does not, I think there is a limit with the stat dose. That's a problem that I'm going to face when I do that. So I don't want to do that because I will use at least to tweak my beam. I need to use the stat dose to generate the PDDs and so on. Once I'm done, then if I want to, I can increase it to. So here I'm going to change this again. 128. 128. And remember, the more, if you set this more, the RAM is going to take per simulation, it's going to be around half a gig. So parallel processing this crucial because you might be limited to 4 gigs of RAM. Now, if you submit and do parallel processing of, let's say 10, okay, that's a problem. That's 5 gigs of RAM, and you don't have that. Okay, so that's why I keep them small. Or usually will not take full advantage. That's when I talk about the Linux session. Okay. Any more questions?
Okay, so it's 2 hours now, and I believe most of the people are it's became late, especially in the Asian countries.
Depends on your taste. Does not matter. I use OpenSUSE and Ubuntu. I like OpenSUSE, but if you want to use Ubuntu or OpenSUSE, that's up to you. But the installation is going to be a little. The packages are a bit different. The way their name is a bit different than Ubuntu.
Okay, so next time, inshallah, we'll you have to do the assignments again, and if you have any issues, you can use the classroom to put your questions there. And Dr. Omid, next time he will elaborate more about the those XYZ.
Yeah. So try to actually these assignments, try to do them and put your comments. Look, I faced a problem here. Put the input file so we look at the errors and so on. And by the way, others who have the expertise, they can actually reply. Don't expect, sometimes it's a bit difficult. I still work, I still have a job to do. So if you know the answer, reply, and that's fair. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. And with this, we conclude.
Okay. Thank you very much all, and we're going to see you next week, inshallah.
At the same time, at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, 7 o'clock.
Okay. Sure.
Okay, then. Okay?
Yes.
يلا طيب، في امان الله.